Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning, having a great start to your Sunday, a great weekend out there so far as we're working our way through it. About to enter another work week already, but I got you a pretty big update this morning. It's going to be a pretty active weather day, not just for areas of the Caribbean like Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. It's going to be a pretty big weather day for areas of the U.S. also. I'm talking about an enhanced threat, a level 3 out of 5 for severe weather for certain parts of the country like the Midwest and areas of the Ohio Valley. We'll break down that also. But the first half of the video, we're going to focus on what is still Tropical Storm Fiona. Fiona is looking much more healthy this morning, especially on radar. So we'll break down that. We'll try to talk about everywhere that we can, guys. I know I've missed a couple areas, and you guys have let me know it in the comments. So I'm going to try to mention everybody, get as detailed as possible, and try to keep you guys aware because I'm thinking conditions, well, I'm knowing conditions are about to really go downhill here really in the next few hours, and especially in areas of Puerto Rico. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that, liking the video, like the video if you do. I really appreciate that. It goes a long way in the algorithm. Just getting these videos out, the more people. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. And we're certainly praying for everybody down there in Puerto Rico, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and everybody being affected by Fiona right now. So let's go on and work our way to it. We'll take a little bit more of a huge look at what's going on out here. Fiona right here, I can tell you, and we'll get a closer look at this on IR imagery, which is what you're looking at right here. It still looks like kind of a weak tropical storm. It doesn't look well put together, but I can tell you on radar scope, which I'm about to show you, which actually shows you your radar, the precipitation that's falling with Fiona, it looks pretty good. It looks like a Category 1 hurricane at this point. And then we're going to watch a shortwave trough that makes its way through areas of the U.S. that's going to promote some big-time severe weather. So stay tuned if you're in areas in the Midwest, though, Iowa, Illinois today. Expecting some pretty active weather, probably the biggest severe weather day, I would say, in the last month and a half, 2 months. So we're kind of slowly getting back into that season. But let's talk about the tropics first because this is ongoing right at this moment. Like I said, if you look at this, this looks kind of sloppy. Of course, you got those high cloud tops, those cold cloud tops, which you see right here, and the whites and purples right here. That symbolizes some pretty high cloud tops, which tells us we have some pretty robust convection in this system, especially in this feeder band right here, but it doesn't look well put together. So you look at this, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands up here, Puerto Rico right here, the Dominican Republic right here. And if I get any kind of geographical location jacked up here, guys, forgive me. I'm always learning, especially when it comes to Caribbean, and I'm not the best at punctuation either. So if I butcher a name, let me know it in the comments nicely if possible, and we'll get it right the next time. But if we take a look at the radar right here, this is Fiona. I mean, Fiona looks like it has a massive eye, but it's a really warm eye. It's a big, broad eye. There's nothing real tight about it. But I still can tell you, I've seen Category 1 hurricanes look worse than this. So this is the middle of the storm. I mean, you can see it right here, the center of low pressure right here, the L. So these are the feeder bands moving into the U.S. Virgin Islands and then the British Virgin Islands up here. This feeder band is working its way through. And let me tell you, I've chased quite a few bit of hurricanes. There can be some nasty weather in these feeder bands that are moving south to north right here and moving right through these areas, dumping a ton of rain. A lot of strong winds are probably in this right now. You guys can let me know what's actually occurring. But actually in Puerto Rico, listen, this is moving. It's hard to know exactly where it's moving because if you look at this, it looks like that it's moving in this direction, which looks like it's heading right towards the central southern coastline of Puerto Rico, Ponce. Hopefully I said it right. Even into San Juan, you're about to get some nasty feeder bands that are about to move into this area. I think that's how you pronounce it, Ponce. Let me know if I pronounce it wrong. I'm all for learning, guys. So, but this looks like it's heading right towards it. And let me tell you, in these areas right here, this is some big time conditions right here. I mean, strong winds. I mean, this is a legit circulation right here, moving like this. This is the actual outer eye wall. If there's any at all, that's it. And some of the worst conditions are in this. This is a pretty wide eye right here. I mean, it's about, almost 45 miles wide at its widest. So, this actual center of this storm, the beginning of the center of this storm, is, let's see, about almost around 60 miles from Ponce right here, from basically the southern coastline of Puerto Rico. So this is getting close, and this eye wall right here, is going to move into Puerto Rico and cause some big time conditions, and it's going to feel like a tropical storm low wind hurricane is slapping y'all. So we look at a more wider view of this, and it just looks like a sloppy category 1 hurricane to me, but you still don't have a big time well intact system. Dominican Republic right here. So the idea is the cone likes this to move like this, right? And then there's some deviations of this that move it kind of over here. And then some models have this moving more so directly over Puerto Rico. So there's still a big question on where this is going to go. But confidence is pretty low that this is going to move due north over this area of Puerto Rico right here. It's probably going to take one of these 3 routes right here. So moving forward here, just know the conditions are going to go continuously downhill in the entire area of Puerto Rico today. They are just all throughout the day. So we'll keep on moving. We'll look at water vapor loop and see kind of what's going on with this as far as how healthy this system is. You see these high cloud tops right here that are moving in this direction, which is the opposite direction of the actual circulation of this tropical system. That is what we call an outflow, an anticyclonic flow right on top of this system. This is helping to push air away from the center of this storm, helping the storm to ventilate, really breathe. And they're still dealing with some shear, but in general, it's a pretty healthy tropical storm, but still conditions are only favorable for just gradual strengthening. But the idea here is that this is probably going to get upgraded to a hurricane, or I believe it'll be our it'll be our 3rd hurricane of the 2022 hurricane season. It would be Hurricane Fiona. And if we look at the latest hurricane mission through this system, and this is Puerto Rico right here, the U.S. Virgin Islands, 993 millibar low pressure storm right here. That's the lowest it's found. That's a pretty strong tropical storm. In some cases, that's good enough to be a hurricane. But you see these wind barbs right here in these feeder bands. You compare this with the actual radar right into here. It shows some big time strong winds at flight level, but this will mix to the surface, and these will move into Puerto Rico, into this area of Puerto Rico throughout the coming hours right here. So if it doesn't make a direct impact to this area of Puerto Rico right here, you're still going to get hit hard by at least the eye wall of Fiona right here, which is going to be some intense conditions. But see these purple wind barbs right here? That's symbolizing 64 to 83 knots at flight level. So that's around hurricane force winds at flight level. So this might get upgraded pretty soon to a hurricane, but per the latest updates, per the 8 a.m. update, we have a 70 mile per hour tropical storm. So if it goes up 5 miles per hour, which these updates only go up 5 miles per hour, they don't go up like 1 mile per hour. If it goes up another 5 miles per hour, this will be Hurricane Fiona. So we expect this to most likely be Hurricane Fiona, probably at the 11 a.m. update. This is the 8 a.m. update. Hurricane warnings up for all of Puerto Rico, for I would say the entire eastern half of the Dominican Republic. But the idea is that this is going to hit probably western areas of Puerto Rico, potentially make landfall there, and then it could potentially make a second landfall over over eastern areas of the Dominican Republic. So we'll see what it does. It's moving west-northwest at 8 miles per hour. Like I said, a 70 mile per hour tropical storm. That's a strong tropical storm. So it's coming. And here it goes. We can keep this. We can look at this is what you call the HWRF model. It's not the most reliable model in the world, but it's doing pretty well right now. It's confirming pretty well. So here it goes. We're moving into 8 a.m., which is right now. We move into 11 a.m. Eastern time. Here comes that eye wall hitting Ponce pretty hard right here around mid to late morning. This will continue. And then it might make a landfall in the most far southwest areas of Puerto Rico right here. The technical area of low pressure moves over land bringing some nasty conditions. And even though the center of the storm might move past Puerto Rico, the rest of Puerto Rico is going to get hit hard. And even the Virgin Islands will continue to get hit hard by these feeder bands right here. And these will continue to work their way through Puerto Rico, dumping a lot of rain, gusty winds, and even a tornado threat for Puerto Rico. And this will continue to move through. This model does not have this making landfall in the Dominican Republic. This moves north, brings some gusty winds, some big-time storms potentially for the Dominican Republic. But overall, this moves north and then begins to really intensify potentially into a pretty strong, I was about to say a strong tornado, to a strong hurricane as it gets into early next week. So we look at the GFS. GFS is kind of the same, but it wants to make landfall maybe a little bit further northeast into Puerto Rico, makes landfall, moves on out, and then it pretty much follows the model I just showed as far as what it does afterwards. So the idea is that if we go back to the radar here, this is most likely going to make actual landfall probably right in this area of Puerto Rico if the models are correct. So we'll see what it does. Maybe it deviates a little further, more to that more north route. And if you were to look at this, you would think it's heading right towards the central southern coastline of Puerto Rico. So it's hard to tell what it's going to do. The European is a little bit more west-northwest. In fact, never really truly might not make landfall in Puerto Rico. Instead, heads west-northwest, makes a landfall in the Dominican Republic as maybe the strong hurricane that it is, or a low-end Category 1, the strong tropical storm it is, or the low-end hurricane that it is. Then gets north of the Dominican Republic, Hispaniola, gets very close to areas of the Bahamas, and then heads on out. And we'll go on and talk about the future of this. Everything still looks set that this is going to probably become a major hurricane, Category 3 or higher. And Bermuda still has a threat later this coming week for this to affect you guys. And if it does, it's going to be a powerful hurricane. Latest Euro moves north of Bermuda Thursday into Friday. It's another miss for you guys. Thank God. We look at the GFS. What does the GFS do? Let me be able to talk a little bit correctly here. Does the GFS do? It moves a little bit, deviates a little bit more to that eastern track. And, that might not be good for the areas of Bermuda. Thursday morning, this thing looks like it's staring down Bermuda, which is right here, that little dot. And then the GFS narrowly misses Bermuda, but not before bringing some nasty conditions. Thursday evening into Bermuda. So we got to see which one's correct. Bermuda is very small, but you never know when a hurricane is just going to slam you guys. This has been a recurving season. It seems like all the tropical systems are just recurving, which is good, but sometimes that can be bad for Bermuda. But we're looking at the National Weather Service here in Puerto Rico, and this is in English. Slight chance of water spouts, saying as much as 16 to 25 inches of rain can fall in the southern and eastern sections of Puerto Rico. Winds up to 75 miles per hour with gusts up to 95 miles per hour over Puerto Rico. In the Virgin Islands, winds up to 45 miles per hour with gusts up to 75 miles per hour. And watch out, Virgin Islands. I mean, it's happening right now. These feeder bands are making their way through that area. And, those feeder bands can be quite intense. So, this is it in Spanish. Hopefully you guys can read this pretty well. If you don't know where to find this, just literally type in National Weather Service Puerto Rico, San Juan, and this will pop up for you. You'll be able to take a look at this yourselves here. And then this is probably coming up pretty blurry, but showing certain areas of Puerto Rico, how much rain can fall in all these areas. So anywhere from 5 to as much as 20 inches of rain can fall in Puerto Rico. So please be aware today down there. I hope that was a good enough update for you guys, and I hope that helps you guys. But, another look at the radar. Nastiest weather's coming in right now, so it's about to go downhill for you guys. So, hunker down, stay safe down there for this Sunday. Let's talk about the severe weather threat today. Look, there's an enhanced risk for southeast of Iowa, for western areas of Illinois, a small section of Missouri and northeastern Missouri. Slight risk around this enhanced risk. So this is going to be an active weather day. Tornado threat, a 5% risk to see a tornado 25 miles in a given location. Wind threat, 15% risk to see winds pushing 50 knots or higher. That's 55 or 60 mile per hour winds in some of these storms. But the hail threat is going to be one of the biggest stories today. This is actually a hail threat driven enhanced risk, meaning you have a 30% chance in this red area right here to see hail bigger than 1 inch or diameter. And then in the hatch risk, which is this black outline ridge, that this black outlined area right here with the dashes going through it, that is a 10% chance, not added to that 30% chance, but just an additional 10%, with just a 10% risk to see hail pushing 2 inches or higher in this black outline area. So these storms are going to produce some large hail today in these areas. We're starting to gradually, gradually inch our way into that secondary severe weather season. And with this little system today, this is a shortwave trough, basically rounding the upper base of the upper areas of this ridge. And with this threat of severe weather threat, with severe weather today, you're going to have a chance for some flooding today in Illinois. Slight risk, which is a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met in this area right here. So let's go on and just break down this area. So I know this is probably kind of small on your screen, but I love weathermodels.com and showing a more detailed look at what happens with the radar here today. So we're getting in through the afternoon hours, getting into the mid to late afternoon hours. Here we go. These are the big storms just north of Des Moines. These storms are really popping up about around 4 to 6 p.m. This afternoon, maybe give or take an hour. And you see these, areas in pink right here. To me, that symbolizes hail. There's going to be some supercells just north of Des Moines to develop very quickly. Watch out Cedar Rapids as we get into most likely the probably the 6 to 7 p.m. range. These continue, and I think the hail threat will be the biggest in this time frame, probably in eastern to southeastern Iowa. And then the hail threat, I think, will slowly drop off as these storms kind of become more congealed in nature. And then they will move into Illinois. And, it's only going to probably be, I would say, I don't know, a 3 to 5 hour period of where the weather can be really bad, anywhere from central to eastern to southeastern areas of Iowa. But these storms are going to be pretty intense later this afternoon and this evening from Des Moines points east to Cedar Rapids. So down to Burlington, Iowa. It's going to be quite intense. So, and then we've gone and jump over a little bit more east. Here comes these storms right here. This is actually what's happening this morning. And then we look into this evening. And this can happen a little bit later this evening when the sun's going down. Aurora, definitely, hopefully I pronounced that name. I'm always scared to try to pronounce that name of that city. I think it's Aurora, Illinois. These storms can be quite intense for this area. This has definitely been a tester for my pronouncing names of countries and cities and things like that. So bear with me, guys. Hopefully I've gotten it all right here. But feel free to make fun of me if you want. But intense storms moving through this evening, but this becomes more congealed. And there is going to be a tornado risk with this, especially early on with the storm mode being supercellular in nature. But these storms will move throughout the evening hours. So watch out Springfield, not Missouri, Springfield, Illinois. A little bit later today, Chicago could see some nasty weather later tonight. Springfield later overnight tonight. And these storms will continue to march through and then lose some steam. But this is a pretty severe complex of storms. It's going to move all the way from Iowa all the way into potentially Kentucky as you're waking up for your Monday morning. So just kind of that, it's kind of like what we saw back in June where these big storms basically ride the ridge. We call them ridge riders. And this is kind of a setup like that with this intense heating. So we'll talk about each region and break it down very quickly. I think the only area that could see some showers and storms today is Florida, as always, and then maybe the coastal regions of Georgia and South Carolina today. But I don't think this is going to be a big deal. Everyone else remains dry, and it's getting pretty dry for a lot of folks. I don't even remember the last time it rained here in central South Carolina, to be honest. Today in the Northeast, kind of a rainy, dreary day for a lot of Maine. It's going to stay pretty cool. Maybe a shower, maybe a storm or two for Vermont, New Hampshire. Definitely could certainly see some storms really for interior areas of New England today. Clouds, showers, but this little piece of energy rides through. It's, in fact, if we look at this, it's just saying a general risk of storms, but I wouldn't be surprised if a storm or two in the Northeast could be severe. If you're looking at the HRRR model, it definitely shows pretty high-end activity for northern New York State, Vermont, and New Hampshire into southern areas of Maine today. So watch out for that. But severe weather, really, it's lacking the dynamics you need for severe weather in those areas. For the south central U.S., pretty quiet day. An isolated shower or storm in southern Louisiana, coastal regions of Texas. But other than that, very quiet weather. And then we'll look at the rest of the northern plains, the Midwest, and what's going on outside this severe weather that will pop up in Missouri, Iowa, and Illinois today. Pretty quiet weather. A storm or two is possible in the UP of Michigan. Be aware of that. I know I got some people who watch from that area. You might see a late summer, early fall storm or two that might roll through that area today, but then just some showers making their way through southern Minnesota into Wisconsin later this afternoon and this evening. Other than that, not too bad in those areas. Just watch out for those storms in Iowa today. And you can see where the ridge is. I mean, this ridge is going to build over the south also throughout the week. It's going to be very hot this week across the south, and not just the south, but other portions of the country too. Hundreds building into Kansas, maybe even Oklahoma today too. Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, very warm. And then the heat lessens a little bit for the immediate southeast. And then the Ohio Valley into the northeast. The showers will keep it pretty cool, especially into Maine today. But, just a little bit above average temperature-wise for the southeast. But the further west you get, the hotter it gets. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Stay safe down there. Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, places like that. And definitely in areas of the Midwest today, Ohio Valley. It's going to be some nasty storms today, so please be aware of that. God bless all y'all. Stay safe and have a blessed Sunday.